Okay, the country is not falling apart, and you're listening to That's Good Broncos podcast here on YouTube and in your ears in podcast form. So make sure you subscribe through whatever podcast app you use. Today's episode brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Use code DNVR when you sign up to take advantage of their can't-miss offers. We've got guest Chargers expert, Chargers insider from the outside, John Na of @Bolts_Blitz, a name I helped him coin, Will Keys, myself, and my coffee company, benchwarmerbrew.com. Go there, buy my coffee, or get the fuck out of town. So, still working on a slogan, not sure if that's the right one. But John, big Chargers fan, we've had him on before. We're going to talk about the Chargers head coaching search, the Broncos GM search, little lock Herbert comparison, AFC West too. Just some AFC West talk. I don't know. I wanted to start with saying this. The Denver Broncos have become the first team to miss the postseason for 5 straight seasons after winning a Super Bowl. Let's see somebody else try to break that record.
Who held the previous record of 4 seasons?
I don't know.
Probably the Buccaneers.
Ooh.
Probably, right?
I think the Bucs made it, but I'll come back. Oh, maybe it was the New York Giants. I'm gonna put my money on the New York Giants after 2011.
Ooh.
Giants would be a good guess.
We'll figure it out, though. We'll figure it out.
What about
important distinction?
Yeah, those are some good guesses. Okay, John, you were at least through some of our text message exchanges, which I will not post, unlike some people who tend to date Von Miller. You were critical of Anthony Lynn at times. Specifically, I think the reason everybody's critical of Anthony Lynn, some of his game management, clock management issues. I thought he was a decent head coach. I thought maybe he deserved one more season to try to prove it. What were your thoughts on letting him go? Like, were you happy to see that, or did you want him to come back?
I thought honestly he was going to come back because he did go 3-0 to close it, or he went 4-0 to close the season, 3-0 against the division. So I thought that was going to be enough, but I'm not surprised they let him go too at the same time, because the question is, what do you value, game management or locker room leadership, right? Like that's where the balance is right now. Like, we have a good roster, we have everything in place. We just need to find that coach that can balance both of that's good at time management, but also is respected and not a total goober in the locker room. And so, is that candidate out there? Yeah, I'm sure there are, but are we going to find the right one? The history says we'll probably be disappointed.
Well, I think the difference this time around, at least from when you guys hired Anthony Lynn, is you have a young quarterback who I think a lot of coaches would be excited to coach. And not that Rivers wouldn't have been enticing for a head coach to come in and work with, but I think the possibilities with Herbert might help get you guys one of the top candidates. I think as a head coach, that's the first thing you should look at is who's my quarterback I get to work with. And Herbert's probably, of all the vacancies out there, one of the best. And that's kind of crazy.
Ones.
Kind of crazy to say with the Detroit Lions have Matthew Stafford right now. The Falcons have Matt Ryan.
Deshaun Watson.
Oh, yeah, Deshaun Watson.
Houston. And then Jacksonville, you're walking into a situation with Trevor Lawrence. It feels like
so maybe Herbert's the worst.
Head coaching vacancy, they're pretty ideal. You've got a quarterback just about everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, Herbert is the least experienced, right, outside of Lawrence. But the nice thing about Herbert, or the most attractive thing, is that the coach can put his fingerprints on him, kind of mold him into whatever he sees fit. And so I think people are wanting Brian Dable. And then I think number 2 after that, honestly, I haven't really thought about it. Hopefully they land Brian Dable. Because Jason Garrett, oh my God. I mean, I wouldn't like
Do it.
that frightened me as soon as that name popped up, because that is definitely a name that the Spanos would hire. For
It
sure.
should. It should have.
I wouldn't put past anything to an ownership that fired a coach that went 14-2, right? If you have the balls, or if you have the will to just fire a coach that went 14-2, the best team in San Diego in 10 years at the time, right? There was no team better than that. Everyone was super excited, and you just fire the coach, and the next thing you do is hire North Turner, and that's gonna fire up the fan base? Hell no. And so I see the same thing happening with this coaching hire. Brian Dable is the hot coach, but Jason Garrett can be like that dark horse candidate that just gets hired in the last, the 11th hour.
Yeah. Hey, John, could you turn your mic volume down just a hair?
Yeah.
Or just push the mic away a little bit, maybe?
Yeah.
Try it now.
Yeah. Hello? Can you hear me? Is it better?
Yeah, it was just peaking a bit. Okay, so I have a theory here. Jason Garrett's name was one of the first to emerge, and now the Chargers have announced that they want to interview Titans offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, Colts defensive coordinator Matt Eberflus, Rams defensive coordinator Brandon Staley, Panthers offensive coordinator Joe Brady, which might be the best candidate based on his name alone, Joe Montana, Tom Brady hybrid, KC OC Eric Bieniemy, Jason Garrett, and Brian Dable. We're not sure if the correct.
I think it's Dable.
Dable. So I think they said Jason Garrett, and then they're like, oh shit, people don't like this. Let's just throw as many more names out there as we can interview so people forget we said we're going to interview Jason Garrett. Yep.
That's exactly it.
I don't know what's up with this ownership that doesn't want to pay for top flight head coaching candidates. I think the ownership is just, they don't want to butt heads with the coaches, and they want a coach that will listen to them and say yes.
Jason Garrett, famously the most submissive coach in NFL history to his owner.
Yes, sir, I'll do whatever you want. Just don't let me out of the building.
That's my impression of Jason Garrett.
Yeah, the Chargers have a good group of veterans. So they just need a guy who can just, keep them together. We're not like a terribly young team,
That's been the Chargers story for since they let Schottenheimer go. Pretty much. You got a bunch of pieces here. As soon as the Chargers put it together, they're going to be great. And then something happens. So unlike the Chargers, the Broncos are keeping their coach. John Elway gave himself a promotion, and Joe Ellis will be around for one more year, and they're going to bring in a new general manager. And all three of those guys could be gone after next season with a new general manager that would stay. I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation, but the Broncos will interview Champ Kelly from the Bears, Saints scouting director Terry Fontenot, Fontenot,
there you go.
Brian Stark, Denver's own scouting director, George Patton, Vikings assistant GM and VP of player personnel.
His name is George Patton.
Patton.
Leader.
Yeah. Dave Ziegler, Patriots assistant director of player personnel. I know very little about all those guys, but I did want to mention the names of the GM candidates they would be talking to. Did Chargers keep their general manager?
Yep, Telesco going to hire his third head coach.
Oh,
apparently that's unheard of. That's very rare.
Yeah. What do you think about him as just a GM? What do you think about him separate the hiring of head coaches, but player evaluation, all that kind of stuff, roster building?
So Telesco's his best attributes are finding undrafted players, Austin Eckler's, the Jalen Guytons of the world. but sometimes that bites him in the ass too, because he tries to do the same thing with offensive line, right? And we just never have a healthy or good enough offensive line at the end of the season. So when we look at his first round picks, a lot of the picks he picked have been talent that's fallen to him, like a Derwin James. Like he was supposed to be like a top 5 pick in his class, but because of injuries, he fell all the way down to like 16, I think, is where we picked him up. And the same with Herbert. Like no one wanted Herbert, right? He kind of just fell to us. And so it's kind of hard to the hits that he's hit on have been really big hits, but has he really gone out and picked them?
That's a good question.
I mean, it depends on how you look at it, right?
You have to give him credit if everybody else is passing on them and they're the ones where they're like, yeah, the buck stops here. This is a great player. He's not getting past pick 9 or pick 16 or whatever it is. I think that's a good attribute to have as a general manager.
Yeah, it's like I'm not going to knock John Elway for taking Jerry Jeudy when John Gruden was too stupid to draft him, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
it's like
I think it's
the people. Yeah. Sorry,
it's realizing the value in those players that are falling. Although if Derwin James, his question, were injuries, that's obviously kind of been his only issue as a pro so far, is staying healthy. But even like Joey Bosa early had injury problems, as did Forrest Lamp and as did Hunter Henry.
Jason Verrett, Hunter Henry.
Oh yeah,
I read somewhere where Telesco loves to draft undersized guys. Like that's like kind of like his MO. And because he kind of focuses on undersized guys, they kind of fall in the draft. So he kind of tries to steal value by kind of
a little bit of money ball.
Exactly, a little bit of money, but kind of you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I think it's just pick the best player.
He heard that criticism of drafting undersized players, and he's like, "I'm taking a 6'6" quarterback." We gotta balance.
Give me the tallest quarterback they have.
Yeah.
All right, Drew Lock, Justin Herbert. Statistically, this year. Completion percentage for Drew Lock, 57.3. Herbert, 66.6. That's 3 6s. I think Drew Lock wins that one.
Uh-oh.
Lock, passing yards, 2,933. Herbert, 4,336. Lock, 16 TDs, 15 picks. Herbert, 31 TDs, 10 picks. Herbert, passer rating, 98.3. Drew Lock, 75.4. So really the only thing Herbert was worse in was having a completion percentage that shows that he loves Satan. So not bad. Not bad. Crazy part is they won basically the same amount of games.
I know.
How do you explain that?
Well, your defense is just in infinity time, or exponentially better than our defense, obviously.
Well, didn't they have like a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense, but the special teams was like in the 30s? It's the year they missed the playoffs with
I think like 2000
offense and the number 1 defense. Yeah. How does that even happen? It just goes to show maybe Anthony Lynn's game management skills are that bad.
Yeah.
You look at the stats on this team. It's like, wow, this is a team that probably should have gone 11-5.
Yeah, let me pull up. Let's see here. Where did the Chargers finish?
In defense?
Damn it. I had this up. Okay, so offense. They were top 10 in yards per game. But that did not, they were middle of the road in points per game. And then rushing yards, middle of the road. So a lot of passing yards from Justin Herbert. Maybe not enough touchdowns. Did the Chargers struggle in the red zone? Did you feel like? Or were they okay?
I think we were okay in the red zone. From what I remember, a lot of our touchdowns were bombs. right? We weren't very good methodically, right? Like an example would be that Vegas game where like it took us 3 tries to get a touchdown. You know, like that's kind of like sums up our whole red zone offense. It kind of takes us, you know, more than once.
Right.
Try. And that's the most efficient red zone offense.
Well,
so I think like there's room for improvement there.
You said the Broncos defense was so much better.
Yeah.
But the Chargers allowed fewer points per game than even the Broncos defense.
So, but I prefer attacking defenses than, you know, zone, let the offense mess up defenses. You know,
right. It seemed like the Chargers' biggest problem was when they would get leads, they would revert to a template that did not work every single time.
Yeah, and how do you not come off of that after the 3rd time, the 2nd, the 4th, 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th? You know, like I don't understand.
It's like they stopped attacking. They stopped attacking offensively, and they play too preventative type defense with leads. All right. Well, looking forward to the playoffs this weekend. Which games you got your eyeballs on, John?
I'm looking forward to the Indy Buffalo.
Yeah, that's the first game, right?
Yeah, that's the first. It's kind of disappointing that it's the first game. I think it's going to be one of the best games.
It should be the Saturday night game, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
Get Washington. I mean, who knows? Like the whole Washington situation, I could get a little dicey now. But no, the Bills earned a primetime like Saturday night game, and we're giving it to, you know, the Bucs and the Washington football team, basically because of, you know, Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Don't care for it.
Tom Brady playing a great defense and a team that has offense that probably shouldn't be in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's going to be painful to watch that game, right?
It could be.
Don't you think? Like it's going to be death by 1,000 paper cuts. Like Washington, like everyone's going to be like, why? Like I thought this defense was supposed to be good, you know? Like that's what everyone's going to think by the end of that game. Because they're just going to be so efficient on offense. They're just going to make them look stupid. Chase Young is just going to be running around, not hitting anything, you know.
Chase Young is going to be coming.
They'll just get rid of the ball so fast.
Yeah, in the playoffs, you need to have an offense that can sustain drives. And maybe Alex Smith is good enough to do that for Washington, to keep the defense fresh so that they can continue to attack Tom Brady. And Aqib Talib had Washington secondary in his top 5 no-fly zone defenses. So maybe the defense is complete enough to actually cause problems for the Buccaneers. Like, I don't think the Buccaneers are as good as they've looked this last month. I think they've just played really shitty defenses. And even like the Lions, the worst defense in the league, they got the Lions when they didn't even have half their coaches available, which now the Cleveland Browns are going to have to deal with on Sunday night versus the Steelers. What do you think of that situation with Kevin Stefanski not being able to coach this weekend? Do you think the Browns just need to roll with it? Or are you pissed off at the NFL like I am for not figuring out a way to reshuffle the schedule so that game is like a fair fight?
I mean, what else could they do? Delay it a whole week?
Yeah.
I still think the Browns can win. I still think they can win. The Steelers they're like 2-4 coming into the playoffs. They're the only playoff team with a losing record coming into the playoffs in the last 6 games, right? They've been struggling. They're not playing the best football. Cleveland is playing way better football. And if they allow this to beat them, it will beat them. But they definitely have a shot, even without their play caller, because I think they're just still the better team, talent-wise. And if they let this whole COVID thing beat them, it will beat them. But if they can just rally around it, I think they can pull it off.
That's a good point. A rallying cry. I know Will sort of believes in that with some teams. Like we've talked about it with the Saints when Drew Brees gets hurt. The Saints as a team get better. The Browns, though, they had this chance against the Jets, and they did not respond. And my concern is the Steelers. The one thing they do really well is pass the ball, at least when they are winning. And the Browns' biggest weakness on defense is their secondary. So assuming the Browns can run the ball, which is a question mark against the Steelers' defense, like I don't know how that's going to play out. And I think give it a few days, however long you need to postpone it. And then just if like we can get extra day of playoff football here and there, I think that's a good thing because 6 games opening weekend, that's a lot to digest in just 2 days. And if you spread it out a bit to make it work.
Do you guys get like the first wild card weekend or the first playoff round of the year? I know, Brandon, you have to wait till like 2 until that first wild card game on Saturday. It feels like an eternity for me. I mean, for me and John, we have to wait until 1 p.m. and it just feels like forever because we're used to games starting at 10.
Yeah.
And then I get so pumped up for it. Like for the first game, first game's never usually good, but usually get a good game Saturday night. And by the time Sunday afternoon rolls around, you get that Joe Buck, Troy Aikman game, whatever. I'm exhausted. And that's like, it's almost a tradition. I don't mean to do it, but I always take a nap during that fourth wild card game. And I don't know how I'm going to keep my energy up for 6 games.
That's a lot.
It's crazy. It's so many.
Need some energy, maybe some bench warmer brew to help you get through the weekend, guys. Ooh, talk about a plug.
The best segue of all time.
Speaking of other things you can purchase, why don't you take a look at DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. We're heading into the playoffs, football playoffs this weekend, and there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings Sportsbook. If you haven't checked out the app yet, there's no better time to sign up and start cashing in. To celebrate the most exciting time of the football season, DraftKings is giving you the chance to double your money. All it takes is for 1 touchdown to be scored during Saturday's football games. That's right. Once you opt in and place a bet, all you have to do is sit back and wait for a touchdown. While we are all excited for football, let's not forget the 2021 basketball season has kicked off, so head to the App Store now. Check out DraftKings Daily Odds Boosts. DraftKings safe, secure, reliable, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. So download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DNVR when you sign up to have your shot at doubling your money if a touchdown is scored in one of Saturday's football games. That's code DNVR for new players to get a shot at doubling their money. For a limited time, only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You got to be 21. This is for Colorado only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. John, if you're the Broncos' new GM, do you keep Drew Lock or do you try to find a new quarterback?
Get rid of him.
Ooh.
Out the door.
That tells us we should keep him. Doesn't it?
Well, it depends.
He literally only plays well against the Chargers. Literally, if you look up his stats, his only winning record is against us. So I see the best of Locke, and even the best of Locke doesn't entice me.
Doesn't get you excited?
Well, if you want to be stressed out until the fourth quarter and he finally does something,
Yeah, it's hard. We've seen some flashes. We've seen some really bad play. We don't think this has been a good season to really evaluate him or any of the Broncos for that matter.
Totally, yeah. Do you keep Vic Fangio? Can he be kept? Can you be the head coach and stick around?
Yeah, I think him and Anthony Lynn are very similar in that.
Yeah.
I think in terms of he's got control of the locker room, players. I don't know if they love Vic Fangio, but I think they respect him.
Does he call the defensive plays?
Yeah. Calls defensive plays. And he had to because our defensive coordinator was out for 6 weeks with COVID. So wasn't even an option for a while. So he's really good at that. And he's the one thing he's done better than, I mean, Wade Phillips was great with the Broncos defense, but like Vic Fangio's gotten the best out of.
He's very resourceful.
Whoever they've had to start, and they've had to start some really deep depth players this year. So like,
I've always been impressed. I've always been impressed by the Broncos defense. Always.
Yeah. So, you know, that part of it we like. And it's just so much of the Broncos' success depends on the quarterback and the offensive coordinator. And we don't know if Shermer's the guy, but yeah, I mean, like if you don't think Drew Lock's the guy, then you got to find somebody else. And I'm in the spot where if they replaced him, I would be fine. And if they stuck with him, I'd be fine. Like I can argue both sides of it, and I don't know which one is right.
I feel like the Broncos should go for Stafford. Like you guys have a lot of good young skill guys, and then really good solid defense. Insert veteran QB.
No, I love that. I love that. But do you think the Lions are actually going to move on from Stafford?
I heard
we all assume it's going to happen.
What's that? Will?
We all assume it's going to happen, and I don't. For Detroit, like with the hiring a new head coach, the appeal of that is like you don't have to go out and take a chance on a quarterback because you have Matt Stafford. We think the same thing with Matt Ryan, and that you don't know with that either because Arthur Blank said today, like even Matt Ryan and Julio Jones aren't a lock to be on the roster next season, and they might be in place to actually draft a quarterback. I don't know about the Lions; they might be as well, but
they're at 7, and I don't think the Lions are unless they trade up with like the Jets.
Yeah, it's a little lower than you have to be to get because it's like, all right, if you're in a position to take Lawrence or Fields, regardless of how you feel about those guys, but that's the general consensus right now for 1-2. Then you can sell like, all right, Matt Stafford had a great run, but we're building for, the next 15 years starting now versus, we're really going to let like a very proven commodity in Matthew Stafford go for, whoever the hell we're going to take at 7, who's just a total question mark.
Yeah. I just heard rumors that he wanted out. Like he was going to force his way out.
Don't blame him.
Matthew Stafford and Matt Ryan not being with their teams are two of those rumors where you've heard enough people like mention it via whatever outlet that you just start to think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But then when you start to assess the situation, you'd be like, why the fuck would any GM or coach not want that guy when they came in there?
Totally.
Like,
I think it's just their PR people like throwing out the feelers, right? Like
maybe
throwing out the news like, hey, don't want to be here.
And the Falcons pick 4th, the Lions pick 7th. So maybe Atlanta could swap spots with the Jets. But just like if you're the Jets and you're going to move on from Darnold, you can have Fields, or do you look at Stafford and Matt Ryan as an option? Like, are the Jets actually one of the top landing spots for those two guys? It's just it's a clusterfuck, and I hope a lot of movement happens, but it feels like we're being set up for all of these possibilities, and then none of them are really going to play out. That's just usually kind of how it goes.
Yeah. I can see Darnold staying. Like, why give up so fast?
Could say the same thing about Locke though too, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you see more out of Locke than Darnold at this point?
It's hard because I think Darnold is a more gifted quarterback. And I think Adam Gase is a horrible head coach to have for a quarterback. Ryan Tannehill is like a good example of it. But it doesn't take away from how bad Sam Darnold was this year. Like, he looked good at times against the Broncos, and you see him make like some throws in games. You're like, holy shit. But overall, he was maybe the only quarterback who was worse than Drew Lock.
Maybe
outside of Carson Wentz.
Maybe we don't blame the head coach here. The common denominator is obviously Joe Flacco.
There it is. We have found the problem. It's Joe Flacco putting little bits of nonsense in their ears to destroy them. Joe Flacco, starting quarterback, destroyer.
Like the anti-Josh McCown.
Think about like Lamar Jackson when Joe Flacco was with him. Didn't look great. Looked like the only thing he could do was
Flacco got out of there. Yeah.
Dude, what if he's just whispering weird stuff in their ears?
You know, the real test will be if the Buccaneers sign Joe Flacco to back up Tom Brady next year.
Ooh.
And then if that is the year that ends Tom Brady, and you will have even more of my respect.
Glad we got to the bottom of this.
Yep, it's Joe Flacco's the problem.
Yep.
Do you think Indy has a chance beating Buffalo?
Yeah. I think they have a good chance to beat Buffalo, and I'm all in on the Bills. I'm planning on riding the Bills all the way to the Super Bowl, but I think the Colts they're like the team I would not want to be playing in the first round of the playoffs, and it's because they don't have a weakness outside of your boy Phillip Rivers, and the Bills, maybe one of their flaws is consistently stopping the run. And we've seen the Colts really start to take advantage of rookie running back Jonathan Taylor and everything he can do in the running game. So I think if the Bills can lose, it is to the Colts. And it's because they don't have like a big weakness either. Their special teams is good. Their defense is good. Their offense is good. So the Bills got to play a great game. And assuming the Bills play their best game and the Colts play their best game, I think the Bills win. But that rarely happens in the playoffs.
So who's going to make the mistake? The young guy or the old guy?
Exactly.
That's an interesting question because, Brandon, you said Phillip Rivers is a weakness, which I agree. And on one hand, yes, he is, but he can also be the thing that pushes the Colts over the top. Like if Phil Rivers gets hot, then they're suddenly super, super dangerous. He can also throw a late pick over the middle in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left. Obviously, that can happen. So there's so much variability there. Whereas I don't think a lot of the other quarterbacks have that much like range, where I wouldn't be surprised if they threw, 3 picks or 5 touchdowns. Josh Allen I'm kind of curious to see because he just lost his shit in the playoff game last year against the Texans. And clearly, like, mentally wasn't there. He was erratic and lateraling the ball to offensive linemen. So I'm curious to see, mechanically he's grown from one regular season to the next, but I want to see where his head's at in a playoff game. And this is a huge game. This is the biggest game of his life. This is the first game where the Bills fans are going to be there. The Colts are a tough team that are not going to lay down, and there's all these expectations on the Bills for the first time in 25 years. And I want to see if that kind of pressure crushes them.
No, that's another big worry of mine. But I think he is a different quarterback now. But you can't evaluate a guy where he's at mentally. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you just don't know.
Unless you're a football psychologist, which would be cool, but I'm not.
Rivers has played the Bills 6 times. Guess what his record is against the Bills?
6-0?
5-1.
5-1.
What's his stat? How many touchdowns at INT do you think?
I don't know. 17 touchdowns, 2 picks.
What do you think, Will?
I'm going to go, 5-1? 14 touchdowns, 4 picks.
Wow. 13 TDs, one interception.
Ooh, so he does not turn the ball over against the Bills.
Yeah, but this is a bit different Bills team. And the Bills' strength on defense is their secondary. So I feel like he's going to make a mistake. I feel like Josh Allen is going to make some mistakes against that Colts defense. I mean, they're better on all 3 phases of their defense than the Bills are. Like, they have a pass rush. They've got one of the best linebackers in the league in Darius Leonard, and they have a good solid secondary, really good rookie, Julian Blackmon.
Yeah.
Bills.
The only thing with their secondary has been giving up a lot of yards now. The last couple of games. They've been strong throughout
the Colts aren't perfect either. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They're the 7 seed for a reason. They've lost some close and important games. But if they're a team who could get hot. But every team in the AFC is good. Like the Ravens would scare me. The Titans, as bad as their defense, scare me. You've got the Bills. The only team that really doesn't scare me is the Steelers.
Kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's fucking bizarre. And the Browns, like
they're at full strength.
They don't scare me. They're average in terms of scariness.
I don't know. These teams that can run the ball, like we saw it last year with Tennessee in the AFC and San Francisco in the NFC. These teams that run the ball, like they commit to it and they don't stop, and they don't care if their quarterback goes like 6 for 7 in a full game. They're just like going to run the ball down your throat. And the only team, like you said, that I don't think is close to capable of that is the Steelers.
Yeah. They're the worst running team in the NFL.
Yeah, not just the playoffs, the NFL. They're 32nd. They're like 3.8 yards per carry.
Yeah. And one of the things I talked about in the wild card preview episode was they don't even do a good job of getting their running backs involved in the passing game.
Yeah.
I think that's like they try to do short passes to their receivers, and that's kind of one of the reasons they've had like a ton of drops. But when teams don't run the ball, they usually get their running backs involved in their passing game. And for whatever reason, the Steelers just really haven't done that this year. Maybe that's something they do in the playoffs, but
I don't think it's going to start now, though.
No. Who do you think?
Yeah, the only advantage the Steelers have is that they know they can bully the Browns. Like they just have that mental.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's pretty much it. And then that could possibly lead them to victory, though. Like that could be the only thing they need. But I'm hoping it's not. I really do believe in the Browns. Like I really do. I think they can pull it off.
I do too. I want to see it. I really want to see that. It's kind of poetic that they beat the Steelers. I don't care who was playing to get into the playoffs. Their first game in 18 years in the playoffs is against the Steelers. The last time they're in the playoffs, they had a huge lead against the Steelers. Pre-Big Ben, this is Tommy Maddox.
Ooh.
So it just feels like this is this like monumental hump for them to get over.
Was that Kelly Holcomb?
I think it was Kelly Holcomb.
The Browns.
Yeah,
that was a crazy game. I think from what I remember, it went like down to like the last play. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're like the Steelers are definitely going to have that mental edge, and then they have the COVID edge too. But I do see like an avenue to the Browns winning, and it's just dominating time of possession and getting a couple timely turnovers. Like
they're very similar to how the Colts, if the Colts win, very similar to how they would win, right? Like possess the ball. Yeah. Don't let the other quarterback touch it ever. Make very little mistakes.
That's the key to beating any passing team, right? Is even if you delay when they actually start getting things going in the playoffs, as long as your defense is decent, like you have a good chance to win. If Buffalo can't get off to kind of a quick start and it takes Josh Allen and the passing game till the third quarter to get going, it might be too late, or that's how you keep it close enough to get a win. And also I saw a thing today this is the first time the Browns and the Bills are both in the playoffs for the first time since 1989. Wow. So the best case scenario, and I don't even know if the paths would make it so we get there.
I think they played that year too.
What's that?
They played that year too.
Oh, did they in the playoffs?
They went head to head. Yeah.
Wow.
Browns won.
A Browns-Bills AFC Championship game would be awesome.
Ooh, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Second one would be Bills-Colts play AFC Championship. We can't see that.
We can do that.
So, Bills-Browns AFC Championship game would make me happy. If you're going to pick a big upset this weekend, John, what do you think? And same question for you, Will. Don't mean to exclude you.
I got to think about that. How many of these games really are like potential upsets? I guess Colts winning would be an upset. I don't think the Ravens beating the Titans would be an upset. I think the Browns beating the Steelers would be an upset. Washington beating Tampa Bay
that would be the biggest upset.
That'd be
not on paper, but like in our hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
What's the other NFC game? Chicago and
Chicago Saints,
New Orleans,
Rams, Seahawks.
Rams, Seahawks. Ooh.
The Rams are kind of similar to the Washington football team. They just don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
They have everything else in place but the quarterback.
Yeah, but they got Sean McVay. I mean, did they have a quarterback the last few weeks before Jared Goff got injured too?
But even with him in, it was like I really like the Rams. It's just I just don't believe in who they have behind under center until they change that person.
That's fair.
But their defense is playing insanely good right now, right? Their defense is compensating for their offense like 4 times fold, I feel like.
It's the Rams are interesting. If John Wolford starts and they get a win, then I think that'll be the biggest upset of the weekend, maybe. And Wolford, if you want to compare him, just go to the 2015 Broncos Super Bowl run, right? Where their offense was not good. But basically Peyton Manning took over, made sure they didn't make any mistakes, got a couple touchdowns against the Patriots with Owen Daniels. They get to the Super Bowl. Their defense carries them. So Wolford, even though he wasn't great last week, did he throw a pick or did he have 0?
The first pass was a pick.
Yeah, very first pass.
Very first pass was a pick. But after that,
he was okay after that.
He had like 250 passing yards, no picks, and he had almost like 60 rushing yards. So he does add like a different element to the Rams offense. And if he's safe with the football and they use him to run a little bit, maybe the Rams could be like that surprise team that emerges.
Another thing to keep in mind with that is who's been the best guy against DK Metcalf this year? Jalen Ramsey.
Jalen Ramsey Bolton. And the Seahawks offense hasn't been great for like the last month and a half. They were great against the Jets, but they have to turn it up.
Doesn't count.
So I feel like the NFC they're both toss-ups, but for completely different reasons. The NFC is a toss-up because outside of the Packers, I don't know which team is actually really good. And the AFC is a toss-up because outside of the Steelers, I think all of the teams are really good. So I'm going to pick I'm going to pick Washington to be my upset victory as they beat the Buccaneers 20-17.
Yeah. If they go up like 14-0 really fast, even then, I don't know. The Chargers went up like 21 points and we still lost to them.
Yeah. What's the outcome you guys are most sure of?
Ravens beating the Titans.
Wow. Interesting.
I just have third time's a charm. And Lamar Jackson he's going to win. I feel like he has to win. I think he definitely has the most pressure on him to win. So he'll pull it off.
I'm going to sound hypocritical because I think the lock of the week is Buccaneers beating Washington. And I just picked them to be the upset.
I think
maybe the Saints over the Bears, but even Bears defense can make that game interesting.
I forgot that was a game, to be honest. There's a path to the Bears winning too. It's their defense plays really well, and Drew Brees looks old as hell and can't do it. And then they stuff Taysom Hill, and you get a couple plays out of Mitch Trubisky that just do enough, and he doesn't turn it over. But I don't know. I don't know if I see that one happening.
No, all these games they're good. It's a good wild card weekend.
AFC games are far superior. I think, we root for rival teams, but we can come together on this, and that's the AFC is way cooler conference.
Yep, way cooler.
Mm-hmm. Much better.
All right, guys, that's enough of this shit. John, on
Yo.
Twitter at Bolts_Blitz. Had to get that underscore, huh? Bolts Blitz was taken by somebody.
Yeah. Wait, I didn't even check.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow with Dan Mitchell talking Bills. He's a Bills guy. So we're going.
Is he the mustard ketchup guy?
I don't know.
Have you seen that clip of that dude just getting blasted with mustard? He's like supposedly like a tailgate like legend over there.
Oh, I don't think so.
Is that Pinto Ron you're thinking of?
I don't know, but he's like some Bills fan that like this. Dude, look it up. It's like a thing.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
All righty. You made it to the end. Good night. And John Elway, ACL.